Sicily from Boston. I'll be back in Sicily in a couple of weeks. Welcome to our broadcast where we come to you every week talking about all things Sicilian. And how's the weather there, Alfred?
The weather has been very windy the last few days. You could tell that spring is coming in because that's usually what happens every year. There's a transition period. So we had high winds yesterday. It was really bad in Palermo. The airport got closed down and everything else. It was up to 70 miles an hour,
In
gusting winds in
Catania,
Palermo.
too. Catania, too.
Yeah, in
Airport
Catania
was
too,
closed
right.
down for 4 hours. But that's expected. In Sicily, you never know what's going to happen. You've
At
got
this time of the
Etna,
year,
you've
it
got
really
winds.
is. But the temperatures are getting up and up and up. It's now in when it's not windy, it's in the 60s or whatever. So that's a good thing. And then pretty soon it'll go to the 70s, etc. How things in Andover, Massachusetts?
Things are good. One of the things that we're going to talk to you about some family. I want to start out by first talking about some business that some openings in our May and June tour. May, we're going to be on the East Coast. In June, we're going to be on the West Coast. We've got a great lineup. The program is at youmeetandsicily.com. And the best news of them all is that we're offering right now, starting in April till May 10th, a $250 per person discount for our May and June tour. We've got a great lineup. In May, we're in Catania, Taormina, Ortigia. We've got the Flower Festival in Noto, Giardini Naxos. We've got a great vineyard we go to, a Sicilian cart museum. Then in June, we'll be in Castellammare del Golfo. We'll go to Palermo, Monreal. Also there, we have a great vineyard. So that's that. $250 off per person starting right now. We're broadcasting on April 3rd. So that's good till May 10th. So that's what I want to talk about, a little bit of business item there.
The reason we're doing that, Esther, you should tell the folks, is because we just had two late deferments till next year because of physical something or other. So we have the spots opened up and we've already paid for almost everything. So
the bus,
it'd be
the
nice if
hotels,
you could
yeah.
come. Yeah, I mean, I checked ticket prices to fly from Boston to Catania is around $800 or $850, and I think it's even cheaper with the one that you went on, Turkish Airline,
Yeah,
right
Turkish,
now for the May trip. Yeah,
people ask
it's
me
not, they're not
about that.
crazy.
Yeah, Al, people have been asking me about my experience with Turkish Airlines. It was the first time I took it from Catania to Istanbul, Istanbul to Boston. We had a great experience. Very
Yeah.
impressed with Turkish Airlines, so definitely recommend it. Alfred,
I'm
one of
uh,
the
very I'm
hmm?
very happy that you have on the Ukrainian colors today out of solidarity for our
It
brothers and
wasn't
sisters in Ukraine, huh? Or is
it
that just a
wasn't planned,
coincidence?
wasn't planned at all.
Oh,
Do you see this beautiful shawl I have on?
yeah.
Our friend Jim Ingram got it for me in Taormina. So isn't that beautiful? We were up there visiting our friend Jody and her dad. Boy, what a story that was. Jody DeLuca, of course, relocated from California to Librizzi, and she's in the process of finding her way and finding a place in Avila. But what a great thing she did. She brought her 80-year-old father to Sicily last year, and I got a great chance to meet them. What a beautiful gift that was. So, what a great experience. And that leads me to something I've been thinking a lot about here at my mom's place, because our wall, if you can see back there, and also all over my mom's place, there's a lot of pictures of my grandparents and even my great parents. And it made me think, so often I see you guys posting on Facebook some pictures of your great grandparents, your grandparents, and they're so beautiful. And even you, Alfred, the importance of keeping that tradition, for keeping the memory of our ancestors alive is so, so important. So I just want to show two pictures. This is probably the oldest picture we have in the house. That over here, the one sitting, is my great grandmother and her sister. Fantastic, right? Great grandmother, imagine that, and her sister. Now, the next one I want to show is my grandparents' wedding at St. Stephen Basilica in downtown Budapest. I just love this. Beautiful old pictures. And finally, a not so old, a bit more of a modern. That's me and my mom at the Parliament, St. Matthew's Cathedral, too, in Budapest. So there you go. That's, I've been thinking a lot about that. Alfred, you often talk about your grandparents, the memory that they left you. And to have these pictures in sight all the time is just beautiful. And I've been talking a lot with my mom about the history, what they've endured, what they went through, the wars, the Spanish flu, and all of that. And what great heroes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but was it your great grandmother or your grandmother that sat on the Hungarian Supreme Court?
My grandmother.
Which one?
My grandmother. My grandmother. And let me see if there's a picture of her right within reach. I don't have a picture of her within reach.
And she was. When the communists came in, the Soviets took over Hungary after the Second World War. Your family got they were basically persecuted for that. Am I correct? I mean,
they were deported.
That side of the family was.
That's my mom's side.
Christian, right?
That's my mom's side. Yeah, my mom's side of the family. Well, my grandfather was high up, and any kind of opposition and the intellectuals were deported to a small little village outside of Budapest. They had to take a train. So they went from living in this lush, beautiful apartment with high ceilings, chandeliers, rugs from Asia, a lot of beautiful silverware and ceramics and so forth, from living from a mid to upper class to basically living among dirt, among chickens in a room, 7 people in a room. So it was tough, but that's for another story. But I really wanted to talk about this because I really love seeing people posting about their family, especially grandparents and parents. And I just think that's so important to keep their memories alive.
Well, Lester, not too many people could say that their grandmother sat on the Supreme Court. Okay, so I mean, hello, that's a pretty impressive thing. And I have to say this publicly: her granddaughter, that's you. You're not too far off from the tree there, kiddo, because you've been doing great professional work here in terms of just as a news person, newscaster. But your grandmother was just unbelievable. Not to mention your mother, who's basically a missionary practically. She's a Christian mensch, for heaven's sake.
She keeps
at St. Augustine's Church in Andover. Pardon me?
Yeah, I got to tell you, though, that side of the family, there were a lot of people that made great strides and broke some barriers on that side of the family. But that's another topic. Let's say hello to some people. Go ahead, Al.
What I wanted to say is the other side of your family was the side that basically was persecuted again and ended up in concentration camps. Am I correct in saying that?
That's my dad's side of the family, yeah.
Your dad's side of the family, right? And people were killed in your family by the Nazis?
Yeah, on my father's side, I don't have any family left except for my uncle, who was the patent lawyer for Albert Einstein. That's on my dad's side of the family.
So, and your family got persecuted on the one hand by the Nazis, that's your father's side, and on the other hand by the Soviets after they defeated the Nazis. Am I correct in saying that?
They were survivors. And, in writing my mom's book and writing my mom's book, she talks a lot about the Hungarian Revolution in 1956 when you saw the Soviet tanks rumble through downtown Budapest and the resistance of the people there. Of course, we know the fate of that. um, sad event. But yeah, looking at ancestors and what they've endured and what they've gone through, it really speaks volumes to the perseverance and the human spirit, and also to faith, because both sides of my family were incredibly faithful religious people. So it goes a long way to show you that, in fact, those two things are very important in life.
I'm glad you said the word people and not the political class. Okay. The political class is profoundly different than the actual people. All right. I mean,
Yeah,
there's a big difference. During the Second World War, for example, even in Russia, the Russian people were heroic in their fight against Nazism. Okay. Heroic. All right. But it was a political class that ultimately took over under
exactly.
Stalin and the regime and the communist regime, and later on stifled all the basic freedoms, just pretty much as we're seeing right now, what's going on in Russia. You've got people there, they can't talk, and when they do talk, they're arrested, and when they get arrested, they get sent to jail. Okay, so that's pretty much what's happening, and
That's pre-
really, history
that's pretty
repeats
much
itself to a certain sense.
in many
It's
ways,
crazy.
Alfred. In many ways, Alfred, a lot of what you're seeing in Russia also happened in Hungary and other of the Soviet Union, the former Soviet Union countries, where freedom of speech was really non-existent. And when I went back to Hungary in 1993, only 4 years after the fall of the Berlin Wall, and only 2 years after the fall of the Soviet Union, 1991. Uh, I was teaching through the Peace Corps high school, and I went to, I remember the first time that I met with some of the teachers, and they were showing me some of the books. And before the fall of the Soviet Union, the history book of the West was this big, right? It was their perception of whatever the West was, and it was a lot of propaganda. And then when the new books, opening up the eyes of the Hungarians to more history, the history books became thicker. So it's very interesting to see the paradigm shift in that period.
I think right now with all the except for the state-controlled information things in Russia that have been clamped down for the Russian people, what Ukrainian people are doing is they're picking up their phones, thousands of them,
Yeah,
and randomly calling Russian cell phone numbers. And you have Ukrainian citizens talking to Russian citizens, kind of explaining the situation to what's been going on in Ukraine. Believe me
yeah,
when I tell you, this is a century-defining moment. What's happening right now,
for
and I
sure.
think I think the forces of lightness and goodness are going to take once and for all. Are going to take over. I could just
You
my
can feel
blood
it.
tells me this. Yeah.
All right, let's
Meanwhile,
move
back in
on.
Sicily,
Yeah, let's
yeah.
move
Meanwhile,
on.
back in Sicily, I gotta tell you something. All right, there's a lot of mental midgets around here in Sicily. All right, and not only Sicily, but in Italy. I'm going to give you a couple of examples. All right, the first example just happened last night in Milan on national television, where this woman, a professor, a physically ugly professor. You should see this woman. She had 10-foot pole marks all over her.
Stop
That's how
it,
ugly she
Al.
was.
Al, that's
She
Al, stop it.
she she humiliated a beautiful 19-year-old Sicilian boy when she was talking to him by saying, "Wow, you don't speak Italian very good, but then again, you're from Sicily."
Oh,
So today, the number one story in all the Sicilian newspapers is institutional bias, okay, existing today, still,
Alfred.
right? And I agree
All
with it,
right, but
right?
listen,
And this,
listen. Your description
yeah,
of that professor, no, no,
I can say what I
no.
want
Let's
about
move
an
on.
ugly woman, Professor Esther, because
Let's
she
move
crapped
on.
all over a beautiful boy. And what are you going to do? You going to woke me? I don't care if I get woke.
All right. Known as
Doesn't make
what's
any
missing
difference.
today is the strong family connection and the stories. My mission is to retell the stories about our family so that my grandchildren understand the struggles and love there. Love that, Nana. That's beautiful. That's a great, great mission. All right. Nick says, just booked our airline tickets for 3 weeks in Sicily with
All
Swiss
right,
Air,
Nick.
landing in Palermo, and we can't wait. Nick, I'm curious how much you paid for
That's
that.
great.
Very curious.
That's great. That's great.
Jim, World War II ended, but the political ideologies didn't. I truly feel the political ideologies might go dormant but never die. I agree 100% about that. All right, I want to know where you guys are watching from. Alfred is in Sicily. I'm in Andover for just a little bit. Now, I want to tell you guys that I'm working on the next episode, which will be Porto Empedocle in the province of Agrigento. So that's going to be coming out pretty soon. What a beautiful area
I
that
love
was,
that
right?
place.
We stayed in San Leone in the province of Agrigento, right outside the Valley of Temples. It's a great location. But of course, every location has a charm and a beauty in it. So I love that. We've got
Before you
Silvio.
go on,
Yeah.
before you go on, and then we'll take Silvio's question. Somebody sent you a picture yesterday, didn't they? Of a gravestone. Am I correct? And who was that?
Andy Parisi.
Who was that? Who sent?
Andy Parisi. Andy Parisi happened to be in Lawrence, Massachusetts, your hometown, at the cemetery, and he was walking around seeing his grandparents. And what did he see? He saw your father and grandfather's grave, right?
Well, not only did he see my father and grandfather's grave, he took a picture of it and he sent it to you, and you, of course, sent it to me. And I swear to God, I don't know how I felt about that. I got the chills. Here I am in Sicily, and I feel guilty because when all the holidays come up, Christmas and now Easter, that I'm not going to be able to go and see my father or my grandparents or my mom or whatever. Here it is. Andy sends this picture here.
How thoughtful.
I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. You did a great job on the shot, and it really means a lot to me. Thank you very much. I hope someday I could repay doing something nice for you too. It was just wonderful that he did that for me.
Small world, right? Small world.
He did it out of the goodness of his heart, Esther. I didn't ask him, and neither did you. This is the Immaculate Conception Cemetery. It's on the Methuen-Lawrence line, and boom, he found it. Can you believe that?
Silvio has a B&B in Acitrezza. If someone would write Sicily history, all that has been written during the colonizing of double Sicily kingdom, it would be completely changed, and I can't imagine how much lies would appear. Very interesting.
You're right, Silvio. As usual, Silvio is probably one of the most insightful Sicilian people that I know. Okay, he's a little bit like me in the respect that, we don't buy the propaganda that's thrown at us. There's a lot of propaganda, of course, in Italy, and there's a lot of propaganda, Esther, in Europe that's been going on. Who the heck knows how long? Okay.
Yeah, but Alfred, the propaganda is really used. When you think about it, propaganda has been used for centuries, for millennia, to sort of guide people, shift people to a certain ideology or a certain thought that the government wants you to believe. That's never going to change, right?
Well, see, here's the thing that people ought to realize. Italian people ought to realize. Italian American people ought to realize is that at the end of the Second World War, Italy was on the cusp of either going towards democracy or going towards socialism / communism. Okay. And the North to this day is still heavily socialist / communist. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The good thing about it is that people have a lot of rights. The worker has a lot of rights, just rights. Okay, legally rights. The bad thing about it, Esther, is that it's almost like a nanny state now. Italy is almost like a nanny state where people depend on the state for a lot of things, okay? And in my view, it stifles creativity, not art, okay? But it stifles creativity when you know that you've got so many things happening that, you know, the government will kind of protect you. There are 1,600 pages of workers' rights in the Italian Civil Code. It's almost impossible to get fired, okay? So that means that the older people, my age, for example, who are still working with a written contract, can't make way for the younger people who are still working for peanuts, 10 euro an hour, okay? And it's a huge problem in this country. It's a huge problem in this country. I don't know if it's ever going to change, though. I don't know. 67 governments in 70 years? Come on. You kidding me?
Nick says, my trip with 2 check bags, 2 carry-on bags, and seat selection was 2,425 without insurance, which I added separately. Is that that's for one person, right, Nick? That's for one person.
2 check bag. What did you fly? Business class or first class?
I think he wrote Swiss Air, but he does have a good selection. Silvio says
a good what?
He has the a seat selection.
But for $2,400, I'd take the plane home for that much money. I think he overpaid myself.
Silvio says, right, so to cover the robber happens in our land mostly just after Savoia conquered our land, has had a lot of BS. And again, it hurt me celebrating Garibaldi as a hero. And what he's talking about is Garibaldi. Oh, 2 people economy. That's great price. Are you kidding? That's great, Nick. 2,425 for 2 people. Perfect.
That's $1,200. That's $1,200 each, Esther.
That's perfect.
That's a lot of money. You wouldn't pay $1,200 for a ticket.
No. With all those checked-in bags and so forth, $1,200 right now.
You each get 1 bag and 1 carry-on.
2 carry-on bags, 2 checked bags, and seat selection. So what Silvio's talking about, Garibaldi, that is the unification of Italy, and that's something a lot of people talk to me. Oh, you're in Sicily. Oh, you're in Italy. You're in Italy. And I always correct people. No, I'm not in Italy. I live in Sicily. That's a different country. Sicily was a different world until 1861. And what Silvio was talking about is that it hurts him celebrating Garibaldi as a hero because a lot of Sicilians were against that. A lot of Sicilians did not want to become a part of Italy. And many argued there have been, the pros and cons of becoming part of Italy, but many argued that following the unification of Italy, when Sicily also became part of, a country where essentially up north, they have nothing in common with the anything essentially Rome North. There's nothing in the DNA of Alfred that is the same of those people. And what the argument has been is that it really hurt economically the country, the area now part of Italy known as Sicily. So, Al, I know you have a lot of.
Can I say something about that? Let me just say one thing about that, Esther. First of all, Sicily is very small. There's only 5.5 million people. Okay, it's a small, and it could not survive by itself, especially today. What is geopolitical position in the Mediterranean? If Italy and Sicily were to sever relations today, what would happen? Would there be chaos in Sicily because the mafia is still very strong here? So there really isn't a governing entity. That said, the life of the Sicilian did not get any better after the reunification of 1861.
My point, exactly.
From the Spanish occupation, who essentially raped this country for 3 or 4 centuries, okay, when it went to the House of Savoy.
Yeah.
Garibaldi gave it to the House of Savoy. It was no better. It was no better. It was no better at all. Okay, and the proof in the pudding is that They ended up being in cahoots with the Nazis and the fascists and everybody else. And the Sicilian person, common Sicilian person, still suffered terribly. So, no, I don't agree with that. I happen to agree with Sylvia. My own opinion.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Um, Tony, not to change the topic, but are there many appeals to Rome court for denial of justice for dual citizenship because of backlog in embassies or one still closed?
No, you could sue the Department of, you could sue the ministry, the Minister of Interior, if you haven't had your case heard yet. But they have very good defenses available to them. I'm talking about the state, namely COVID and namely retrenchment. Okay, in all the consulates all over the United States. Now, that's for if they haven't heard it yet. Okay. The other thing is, can you appeal an unfavorable disposition, such as an unfavorable 1948 case? The answer is yes, you could, but when it goes up the line and it's all done, you're all done, so to speak. But I think you would be wasting your money if you or any other people try to sue the Minister of the Interior for not being timely about it, even though it says you have X amount of months or X amount of years to do it. I think right now that, where they're just getting out of COVID and the last thing, they are trying to loosening it up, Esther. They're trying to make it easier by saying, for example, okay, you can go to any comune in Italy if you want to bring your paperwork here, provided that you stay here. And of course, that has opened up a Pandora's box of horrors because nobody in any communes knows what the hell to do. But it's getting there, as your mother would say, Esther. It's getting there, little by little.
Little by little. Listen, Peter Scipoletti, who just wrote over there. I love Peter. Everyone, please hit the like button. Thank you. Thank you, Peter. And Peter, I still have a little bit of ashes for you. So we have to get together. I brought him some Etna ashes for his garden. Don't tell anyone. Whoop. Okay. Jim says it seems the difference between North and South is the North is European and the South is Mediterranean, different traditions, language, food. Exactly. The food here or there in Sicily is nothing like the food up north, the traditions. They all have all the provinces also have their own language, right?
I think it's more like the patricians and the plebeians were in Rome, Jim, where the poor people, the plebeians, they lived down in the valley, and the rich people lived up top in the hills. I think that's what it's. I think that's what it's like. Sicily is as you know, a very poor province. We're supposed to be autonomous province. There are two autonomous provinces, and we are supposed to be one. We have our own president. We have our own Senate in Palermo. We have a president.
Our own parliament.
We have our own parliament. It's supposed to be autonomous, okay? But guess what? Right off the coast right now, they're drilling for oil because oil is hot, so to speak. And that oil is going on a ship, and it's going up to the north to be processed. And then it's going back to the south to be sold at a higher price.
It's crazy.
That's one example. I can give you 10,000 examples of the rape of Sicily has been going on since time immemorial. And it really hasn't stopped, for the long and the short of it. It really hasn't stopped. Just my own opinion again. And it's not that I'm for an independent Sicily, because I'm really not. I'm for an equality in Sicily, to make a Sicilian be an equal to an Italian, which we get lip service, but in the final analysis, it doesn't happen.
The money doesn't always trickle down from Rome, right, Al?
No kidding. Yeah, well, everybody corruption, that's why.
Well, keeping talking about history, not a lot of people know that when the Second War got over, born a movement to independence, Finocchiaro Aprile was the head, and even Salvatore Giuliano The famous Salvatore Giuliano, Al. Go ahead,
Well,
address
Salvatore
that.
Giuliano, yeah, I mean, we know these people. Okay, as a matter of fact, I spoke to the cousin, and there is actually still a movement, independent Sicily movement, uh, around both in the United States and Italy, and I believe they have two members of parliament from that particular party. But in
Mm-hmm.
Sicily, they're like way an outlier. Okay, people don't take these people serious, and as a result, they've kind of hurt the integrity. They don't know the intellectual reason why Sicily it is the way it is today. If we just originally got what was promised to Sicily at the end of the Second War, which was autonomy, okay, it'd be a different story. But right now we're almost like a poor serf kingdom, a province, so to speak, and that's how it is. That's the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
Now it might be
But
improving with the EU because the EU is actually throwing money in Sicily. We're
and
getting
in
money
fact,
from
there
right.
is a bunch of construction. I was really surprised from the super bonus, how
Yeah.
much construction of roads, new buildings, a lot of infrastructure, finally, because the infrastructure in Sicily is not the best. So I was very happy to see that. But I would venture to say, Alfred, that movement of independence, Sicily, I know, is very big by being pushed by a lot of Americans. But when you talk to everyday Sicilians, that's not what they want to do. That's not what they
No,
want to do.
no.
And in fact,
They're
the
those people are
continued
outliers.
and in continued discussion about that bridge from Messina to Reggio Calabria keeps going because they do want an easier way to connect to the mainland, not just for for transportation, but it's that physical connection also with the mainland. And I would venture to say that most Sicilians uh, do not want to become independent. Again, although they speak so much about the rich history of when they were independent, but when you think about it, Alfred, they were never independent. They were always part of something. There was the indigenous people before the Greeks came, so the Limnians, the Sicans, the Sicels. But when the Greeks came, Alfred, they became part of the Magna Graecia, the Greater Greece. Then, the Phoenicians were here, the Byzantines were here, the Romans were here, the Arabs, the Normans. So they were always part of a bigger picture. It's been thousands of years that the island of Sicily was not part of a greater empire.
There's been so many conquerors. I don't believe that there's one country in Europe that didn't have some type of a pull over Sicily at one time or another. You
Yeah.
don't talk about the English, talk about the Austro-Hungarian Empire as well. Talk about the ancient Vikings with Rollo up I mean, there's, everybody had, but it's because of the geopolitical location of Sicily. Whoever controls Sicily essentially controls the Mediterranean trade routes. Okay, and that also goes further south into North Africa. Stop and think about that. That's why the War of 1812 happened with the United States, because of the pirates, the Berbers, the Moors, all those people. They were attacking the United States shipping. Did you know that 10% of the American defense budget, 10% was by Thomas Jefferson during the Jefferson administration, was given to fight off the Barbary pirates? Now,
Wow.
imagine if the United States of
That's
America gave
incredible.
10% of its, right? That's why the famous saying, millions for defense, but not 1 cent in tribute. That's where it came from. It's
All right.
unbelievable. You know
Let me
why Marines are called leathernecks, Leathernecks, you've heard that. That's a name for the Marines. It's because the Berbers and the Moors and so forth would cut off their heads. That was the rumor with their big swords. The Marines wore thick leather around their necks in battle, so to prevent that. Hence the term leathernecks.
wait.
Pretty
You
good,
guys
huh?
hearing? Are you guys hearing a beep here or a little? Oh, it went away. Right. I had a question where can you you need to get birth certificate. That's all you.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay, Esther?
Do you guys hear a little bit of a beep? It's your end, Al. Keep talking.
Can you hear me? Okay. The answer is anybody can walk into a commune and get stuff from their ancestors that they want. The answer is to that question is yes. Okay. If you mail it, you probably won't get an answer because they stick those types of things at the bottom of the stack, frankly. But if you walk in and you identify yourself and you say it's for my grandmother or grandfather, it'll work. Or else you could hire a lawyer like Massimo who does it. Other lawyers are service, they call them service providers. But yes, you can do that.
Are you guys still crackling upwards and because I'm here a bit, so out here.
I think it's on your
breaking in to you. You're breaking up. There's a in and out now, you guys. I think it's okay. I think we're good.
Okay.
Let me read this. Alfred, I was born in Italy, but had to get citizenship to American citizenship. Is it to get dual citizenship now?
You're going to have to reacquire your citizenship by coming here for 1 year and staying in Italy for 1 year, and then you could reacquire your citizenship. But you can't do it from in the States. You physically have to come here, get a residence, and stay here for a year. Okay. And the reason is in the 50s and the 60s, especially the 60s, when they had the Italian draft, immigrants who had kids specifically gave up their citizenship so their kids wouldn't go into the draft. And now the kids who are now older, they want to, become Italian citizens. And that's essentially the class of people that has to come here again for a year. And by the way, there is no longer a draft for about 20 years, just so everybody knows that.
All right. How's my sound now? Can you
Terrific.
Guys? Terrific. All right.
You sound a little bit sexier, Esther. You sound like sexier today. You know,
I don't know.
It's that hot Hungarians.
All right.
All right, go ahead.
Shift here a little bit. Bear with me. All right. Let me read a few of these. Hold it a sec while I adjust everything. I believe I read Sicily also got the short end of the stick in terms of building a major port there versus north of Italy. What's a boon to the economy that would have been for Sicily? Alfred, why don't you address that while I play around?
What he's talking about is it's all about export, okay? So it's very difficult to get a ship to go from Palermo to, say, North America, Boston and New York, okay? Rather, what has to happen is the cargo goes from Palermo to Spezia up top in the northern Italy, and then it gets loaded onto another ship and it gets sent over. So as a result, goods from Sicily pay a heavier transit rate than anybody else because we're the southernmost island. There isn't that many going. There are some, but not too many. Not the way, it's all about big business, huh? It's all about the corporations, whether it's a corporation in the United States or whether it's a corporation in Italy. Now, where's the money? The money's up north. The money's not down here. That's why.
All right. How do I sound now? Is it still breaking up?
No, I think. Heroic.
No, okay, I think I fixed it. All right, Frank, I want to address this. Many Sicilians head north into Germany to find better jobs. It's a huge issue. The brain drain that happens in Sicily has been happening for several decades. Even some of our friends, John Marco, he went to Germany for a few months because, the money is just not there. He owns a gym right near us in Acicattena, and the membership was down, but also what he was making a month was not enough, was not sustainable. And listen to this. So that he went there and we kept in touch and he was miserable. He missed his family. He missed the food. He missed the culture. It was too cold. It was too dark for him. And when I say dark, it means, the people were not as friendly. He really missed it. And he ended up coming back to Sicily. But that's a story I hear a lot, Frank. And, People are constantly looking for jobs in England, yes, mainly Germany, but anywhere up north. Even our, my Italian teacher slash friend's daughter, who was working in hotels in Sicily for many years, it's just the pay was not good enough. So she's up in Milan now working for a great hotel and making about double what she made in Sicily. It's a big
Well,
issue.
Germany is the 500-pound gorilla of the European economy. So tens of thousands of jobs are available. But the UK also has a powerful place for Italian Sicilians to get jobs. And let's not forget Australia.
Yeah.
Okay. Australia as well. Australia has a huge Sicilian population. Okay. Going back to the beginning of the 20th century. But right now, too, there are a lot of immigrants there going to Australia because it's open country there, and there are job opportunities for people.
And Nancy, nice to see you here. Nancy said, speaking of early Sicily, I wonder if you have visited Centuripe. Cicero said that it was one of the largest and richest cities in the late Republic. I would love to see a program on that city sometimes. We have not been there. I believe that's in the province
I love
of
Cicero.
Caltanissetta.
Cicerone. They call him Cicerone.
Cicerone. All right, I think this
Cicerone,
is
yeah.
better. I think that's in the province of Enna, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, how's my
Well, we should go, Esther.
sound now? Okay, this is,
Sign me up.
look, Nick says, with all the issues that Sicily has day to day, the beauty and lifestyle certainly to me outweigh most of its problems. And I'll tell you that I just had this conversation with a girlfriend yesterday because she was asking me about, getting my health insurance and how life is there and so forth. And, I was telling her that there are many hurdles, challenges to overcome. But when you weigh the pros and cons, when you see the quality of life and what Sicily has to offer, for me, it just makes much more sense of life there. Like everywhere. But you guys,
I
you know
concur.
what? Wait a sec,
100%.
but everywhere, when you look at every single culture, every single country, there are problems. It's just how you face those problems, how you perceive those problems, how much those problems really impact you. But there's always going to be issues everywhere, right?
Sicily is paradise. End of sentence. Okay. It's put on years onto my life. Okay. I've said that 10,000 times. It's for an American on a pension. It's far easier to exist here in a nice place than it is in the United States. Now, Esther went to Whole Foods and a few other markets, and she shocked me when she told me some of the prices that she paid for normal grocery items. Okay, I don't know as a retiree if I ever go, if I ever go back to the States, can I afford to live there? Can I afford to pay $2,000 a month or $3,000 a month for an apartment and utilities alone? Forget about food and car and clothing and everything else. Over here, it was a decision that I made. And when Esther came, she has made her own decision. I didn't force her to stay here. She loves Sicily, okay? And because she can see the innate beauty of this place and the innate beauty of the people, not the politics, the people.
And that's what it's all about, right?
Everything here. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then, like I've said before, out of all the jobs I've had, all the TV stations, all the radio stations I've worked at in my career, for sure, the Union Sicily project is the most rewarding ever of any job I've ever had. So Silvio says about birth certificate, even now, some churches in, I'm thinking you're saying Sicily, keep again very old documents where ancestors written down all the births. Some people find out own deed proof. I didn't realize some
Let
of
me
the
say this
churches.
about that. there are many towns that had their public buildings destroyed during World War II. All the municipal records got destroyed, especially on the West Coast. So what can you use to try to get a birth certificate of an ancestor if the records have been destroyed? The answer is you can use a baptismal record, okay, which did not get, most of the baptismal records did not get destroyed. And the other thing is the Mormons. Yeah, the Mormons have done a great job putting all the birth and death and marriage information from all the communes on microfiche. They've been doing it for 30 years here. Did you know that, E? So there's a lot of ways to skin, yeah, there's a lot of ways to skin the cat. And, you know, the consular officials know what towns got blown up or what towns suffered earthquake devastation. So they'll obviously accept a substitute. Okay.
Our friend Stefania is here. Nice to see her. She sent me a picture of the Scalora pie that she made, and she put walnuts in it. That's nice to see. We're going to have to try that.
I'm telling you what, that thing looks so good. I almost like printed it from my computer and ate it. That's a good look.
Frank, really I do not know anything about Sardinia except that one of the people that I used to follow on YouTube that has Italian classes is from there. What do you know about Sardinia?
So almost all the population lives on the coastline, okay? Because in the middle of Sardinia, it's very mountainous. Their food is probably, in my opinion, probably the best in Italy, probably one of the best in all of Europe.
Have you been to Sardinia? Have you been?
Sardinia, yes, I have. Yeah, the small little island there, believe it or not, has 3 Michelin-rated restaurants there. Okay, and it's got great history to it, and it's a great take. I asked Esther. I said, Esther, we ought to go there and do a video at some point in time.
Yeah, I'm not done with Sicily. We're not done with Sicily.
Well, I mean, they're our first cousins.
But I got to tell you, that woman that I used to follow on YouTube, I'm drawing a blank on her name, she used to come on vacation in Sicily, Alfred. So what does that say to you? She used to come to vacation in Sicily. So what does that say to you? Oh, okay. Jim says Sicily has an unbelievable survival attitude. The government, economy, etc., are important, but not the end all to be all. Yeah, I mean, when you look at the earthquakes, the Etna eruptions that destroyed, you know, I often say that, especially about places like Catania that has been devastated so many times, and yet they rebuild resistance, and they rebuild even better in many cases. So you're certainly right.
Do you know how many inventions have shaken the world by people who are either Italian or Sicilian, Esther? Okay.
Didn't we read that poem a few months ago?
Next week, I have a list of 50. What?
Where's that poem that we read? Is the poem on the
Yeah, I'm not going to read a poem. I'm just going to talk about.
Remember, but we read that poem a few months ago.
Yeah, but that's basically kind of like light stuff. I mean, there are mind-blowing inventors in Sicily and Italy who have changed the world. Okay? And next week, I'm going to give you, and I'm going to have, I'll talk Esther into it, don't worry. We'll each do 10, and I want to have a discussion about them, Esther, okay?
Sounds good.
Now, I sent you a great article, right, that we ought to really just discuss. I think it would open up a lot of eyes. The things from science and math and you name it, communications, not just pasta and stuff like that.
I'm going to do 5 Sicilian things invented by
Okay, well, you do 5 Sicilians, and I'll do 5 Sicilians that have shaken the earth. Next week, we'll talk about that next Sunday.
Leonard Strom, nice to see you back here again. Where are you celebrating Easter? I will be celebrating Easter in Boston. Alfred will be in Sicily. Do you have any plans yet, Alfred? I know you're going to see Jody and her cousins.
The day afterwards, I'm going to meet Jody for dinner. What I have scheduled, as a matter of fact, I just bought my Easter dinner. I bought a can of lupini beans, and I bought 2 slices of prosciutto cotto. And on Easter Sunday, that'll be my Easter meal because Bunster is not here with me. Esther, last night, I have to say one thing, okay? Esther she makes the best pizza in Sicily. I swear to God, okay? Maybe Stefania is like 1 and 1/8, that close. So I was jonesing for pizza last night, all right? I mean, I haven't had pizza since she's left. So I ordered a takeaway to bring in here. And I swear to God, I can't order takeaway anymore because Esther puts good stuff in there. And even though that pizza that I had last night would be outstanding by US guidelines, so to speak, not what I
You're
have. And her
spoiled.
spinach pie, her scacciata. Are you kidding me?
Oh, all right.
I'm a
This is
happy
very
guy.
interesting. Sardinia is considered a blue zone for their longevity, one of 6 blue zones in the world with people whose age is 100 and 100 plus. That's really interesting. You know who also has the largest number of 100 plus in Sicily? Guess what province? Agrigento.
Palermo. Agrigento.
Agrigento
That's right. You told me that
has the
before.
most
Right.
number of 100 pluses in Sicily. Very interesting. Uh,
That's great. That's great.
Joe Marinelli, nice to see you here. Sardinia has a special community of 400 plus people that are 100 or more years old. Each time another person reaches 100, they have a special celebration for that. I'd love to see that also in Sicily. They have a special celebration, whether it's the parish or sometimes even the mayor goes to the houses of people that turn 100 and gives them a special reward. So bravo to that practice. I love that tradition.
I'm telling you, Esther, people want to learn about Sardinia. We should just go there and we'll fly to Rome, and you go from here to Rome, Rome to Sardinia. It's easy.
Why
It's
can't we
nothing.
just go direct? That doesn't make
How?
sense.
You gotta drive.
Row the boat. Row the boat.
You gotta roll the boat.
No, isn't
Yeah.
it? There must be a direct flight. But that's
I'm sure there's a
crazy.
puddle thing, a puddle jumper, but everybody goes Catania to Rome, Rome to Sardinia. It's a 55-minute flight one way and a 30-minute flight the other way. Not that bad at all.
Uh, Jim says I'm going to doing rack of spring lamb with Dijon mustard, rosemary sauce, and roasted potatoes, etc.
Okay,
Wow.
Jimmy, rub it in. Go ahead, rub it in. Rub it in, James.
Frank, my
Not
father was
Maria.
born in the province of Agrigento. Wish you would love to be 100. Oh, beautiful. Let me just read this from Nick. Many of the U.S. Air Force drones flying into the countries near Ukraine are flying out of the U.S. Bases near Catania, which is called
Let me answer that,
Sigonella.
please. Yeah, let
Sigonella.
me answer that.
Mhm.
First of all,
I don't think there was
they
a
don't
question
go
though.
into. Yeah, first of all, they're not in the war zones. Okay, in other words, they don't go to Russia. Do they fly above Ukraine? The answer is yes. Have they always flied above Ukraine since 2014 when the Civil War broke out? The answer is yes. Okay. They have not done anything extraordinary. Now, Sigonella now has a population of roughly 50% Navy personnel, but also 50% of NATO personnel. Their primary task was not so much Ukraine, but rather Nigeria and the ISIS countries, wars that are going on in North Africa. Okay, that's what they've been doing, as well as keeping an eye on the southern Mediterranean. That's what they do. Okay, but they're not actively engaged in warfare against the Russians at this point in time. No, absolutely not.
Good
morning.
Good morning. Still waiting to Esther show in Hungary where she grew up. That is coming very soon, I promise. Where in Sicily are you? Alfred is in Acicatena, near Acitrezza, Castello, about 20 minutes outside of Sicily. And where are you watching from, Linda? Let us know. All right, Alfred. On that note, a couple more minutes if you guys have a question or a comment. If you're here for the first time, welcome to You, Me, and Sicily. Thanks for tuning in.
Oh, wait a minute. Don't we have an announcement for Wednesday?
Let me finish.
Wait a minute. We have an announcement for Wednesday.
Let me finish, honey. Let me finish.
All right.
If you're coming here for the first time, this is what we do. Alfred and I go back and forth. We sometimes interrupt each other, but we always provide you with some kind of information about Sicily. So make sure you hit the like, subscribe to this channel if you're enjoying this, or if you want to see more videos from all over Sicily, also about the history, culture, foods, everything to do with Sicily. All right. So,
but wait a minute, Esther.
Ahead,
Wednesday, we're not going to have a program Wednesday, Esther.
We are going to have a program. It's just we're not ending yet. We have another minute or two.
When are we going to have our Wednesday program?
Wednesday, we're going to have a program, but we're not going to have it live like this. We're going to have it pre-recorded, but we'll still have a program.
Okay. So it'll be a pre-recorded program on Wednesday. Okay.
So stay tuned on Wednesday. Our regular time is at noon EST, 6 p.m. Sicily time. We're still going to have a program, honey.
Okay, honey.
They say the great majority of Sardinians were speaking Catalan up to the early 19th century, and I bet many people still speak that language. All right. Do you have anything final to say, honey?
All done. I'm all talked out for today. We had so many nice people on today. Thank you very much for watching.
Yeah, thank you so much for spending your Sunday or whatever day you're watching this. God bless you, and vediamo in la prossima. See you on another video of You, Me, and Sicily. Ciao, honey.
Se benediga, grazia e pace. Ciao.
Ciao.